Alright, hey everyone, we are Blunt Bastards. I am diving home. This is Paul the Octopus. Bikram is in the background, and we are at the final hurdle. It's going to be Italy versus England, bitches. But before that, let me just go through a couple of highlights from the semi-finals. Denmark's Mikkel Damsgaard. Amazing goal, scored a 25-yard stunning free kick. This is all these people who are trying to save their faces, and this is for the first time Pickford was breached, and this is also the first fucking free kick in the entire Euro. Okay, and Lionel Messi himself has scored twice in Copa, but people are like, Copa? What Copa? Nobody cares about Copa. Okay, let's move on to somebody people care about probably really badly right now, or not sure, Alvaro Morata. Now this guy became a hero in the same match after scoring the 81st minute or something to equalize against Italy and bring Spain to level terms. And then he also stood up for this is the time he actually scored, so he was very, very happy. Then just I don't know, 40 odd minutes later, he stepped up to take the penalty, the fourth penalty, and he misses. It was a tame penalty, and this is what happens to Morata. Now everybody hates Morata, from hero to a villain. I don't hate him, but it is what it is. That's probably why we love football. And the big news today is Paul the Octopus finally got all his predictions right. He picked Italy versus England final. Not a big deal, but unfortunately what this means is ESPN has now withdrawn officially their £100 million offer because they don't like good pundits. They liked him because he was shit. Now this guy's now stuck with us, Blunt Bastards, and we don't have any money, so we just pay him in Gujarati Namkeen. And yeah, this is our vendor. We have a contract, so this is actually how we pay for all these people. You probably even know these people. I love how they're posing. Alright, let's move on to the first semi-final and let's kick the baby. Before the game, I'm talking about Italy versus Spain. Before the game, every monkey and every junkie on the roadside thought Italy was the better side, believed Spain will dominate possession, but they'll not make anything sideways, back and forth. But Italy will be far superior. Everybody agreed, and then with the ball or without the ball. But the fun fact is they weren't the superior team. Spain was the superior team. They had more possession. They were just better. Italy took the lead with Chiesa's amazing goal. Not it was amazing, but it was a good goal. And it was completely against the grain or the run of the play. Overall, if you see the shots also, 16 shots, this is Chiesa against Italy 6. But not just the statistics. I mean, Spain truly were the better side, just the way England was a better side against Denmark. But Spain was not crazy lucky like England was to win the game, and now they're fighting for the big prize in the big final. Now, Lal, the question for me is that what are your views on this literally edge of the seat thriller between the Spaniards and the Italian stallions, and your word of wisdom on Morata? And the debate that Enrique, this is the ESPN debate, Enrique should never have let him take the penalty in the first place. Opinions are divided on this.
Okay, lots of things happened in this match. I think firstly, it was, I loved the match. It was, I mean, although, you know, Spain played really good, but Italians somehow found a way. Even Italians were playing on the counter attack, and even though Spain was dominating possession and had more shots on target, you never felt Italy were completely out of the game. They always had it in them to, you know, win it, just do the job, and that's what they did, right? They just did the job and just progressed. Morata, like in the Euro previews, we said it, right? As long as Morata leads the line for Spain, they are not going to win. And guess what? That's what happened. You're right. It was, you know, a two-faced sort of a performance. He was a hero, equalized, took it to extra time and to penalties. And I don't know if you're watching the penalty shootout, but of all the penalty takers, when Morata came up and stepped up, I just predicted. I just told. I just said it to myself, he's going to miss it, and he missed. In his body language, I just felt it doesn't feel right. And that's surprising, because when you score a good goal to equalize and get your team back in the game, you would be high on confidence. You would, you know, have that buzz. But somehow I don't know how do I characterize Morata? It's just strange. I mean, he had missed a penalty earlier in the tournament. I think the point that you asked me about, should Enrique have allowed him? I don't think it's a question of allowing. I'm sure 5 people would have to put their hands up to take the penalty, right? And if he's one of the 5, he has to take it, right? I don't think the coach will have that big a say, during the shootout, that you don't take it and you take it. If I think if anything, it has to be within the team. If the team captain, can say at the moment and ask like, "Hey, are you up for it? Do you feel like it?" And if he has an alternate like sixth guy waiting for it, then yes. But I wouldn't blame Enrique for allowing Morata to take the penalty.
So couple of things on this. Like first is, as you said that I did watch the penalty shootout. What also I noticed is, which is also later on I was listening to ESPN and they also were talking about it briefly, that when the referee blows the whistle, right? And if you have noticed, I think it was the Italian or some other team earlier who were taking a lot of fucking time. Okay. So it's not a problem. Like it's not a big deal. They still don't yellow card you. It's okay. It's just people talk about it. Okay. I was talking about the, I don't want to distract it. My point was that the moment referee was literally blowing the whistle, he was already running to the ball. So that's something they talked about. That means he was too anxious. Why you just take your time, like take your time. Other people are taking 10 extra seconds. You're like literally doing it before the whistle is blown. The point which you made, that it's a body language. And if you were asking that why he should have been high on confidence, it's just that moment. Also, when you were stepping up to take the fourth penalty, and people also forget that he was not the first person who screwed up. Okay, Dani Olmo was the first person who screwed up, right? So now he's coming under a lot of pressure. If he has to score a penalty for them to win the match, fine. But now if he misses this penalty, suddenly so many thoughts start coming into your mind. Now it's completely about a person's character. I still remember one time, I don't know how much relevant this is, but I was very good in sports. So somehow in grade 12, when the hockey team happened for my house, they made me the captain. And I just felt like completely, I was like, I don't even fucking play hockey. Why am I captain? Because they didn't have anybody else. So they just made me the captain. I feel Morata in the same situation, that he's become the best but he's not the best. So naturally he will not score well. And now because they hate the fact that nobody's scoring, he is the one who gets the shit. So when I took the oath, I still remember I was in grade 12. I was confident. But when I was taking oath in the assembly, my hand was shaking just taking the oath. I was like, what the hell? And because I felt I was not supposed to be there. And in the match, and I've spoken about this in other podcasts, that in the match, I was so miserable. I benched myself at halftime, and I still remember this guy's name, Akash Saini. I said like, Akash, you're going in. And he's like, okay, bhaiya. And he was just surprised, like, and he was in 9th grade, and he's like, and I was like, no, I'm fucking embarrassing. Like literally I'm putting my stick, and you have played hockey, as you said. I put my stick down, fucking the ball rolls behind, under, like, goes through. And I was like, stupidity. I was just feeling embarrassed about myself. So I think the good decision I made was like courage, that, I benched myself because nobody else was going to bench me. I was house captain. I was like, but everybody could see like he's not good. So I had to bench myself. So I think it's a character, as Maradona always says, that Messi has, he like vomits like 10 times before the matches. He doesn't have any like, the character or anything. He gets scared. So something you can't take it out even if you want to. It just keeps coming back to you. I mean, we're going to talk about Harry Kane's penalty and how terrible that was, and we'll come back to that. So, and on Enrique, I personally agree that I don't blame Enrique. What the fact is, like, it's like saying allow was a complete wrong word, first of all, to start with. My point is, like, when you say, like, who wants to take the fucking penalty? And if Morata raises his hand, you can't tell him not to take it, because what are you trying to show? What are you trying to show? And how are you going to get 5 people anyway? Most of the people take penalty, they don't even do. Morata is a striker.
Yeah, and it was because of him that you were at the penalties. Otherwise, you would have lost in normal time.
A very clinical goal as well, if you read. Yeah. Very clinical, very clinical. Like very, very Lewandowski style. Like just like I loved it completely. All right, let's move on to the next one then. And this was our beloved England versus our beloved, everybody's beloved Denmark. So now your gut feeling was that England will, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said if they if they concede the first goal, they will lose, right? They lose. They did concede the first goal. The moment they conceded, I was totally thinking about you. I was like, my God, and also comes from a fucking free kick. Hasn't happened this entire Euro. I was like, lol, the prophecy is going to come true. Didn't come true because the VAR was too fucking cowardly to send the referee to the monitor. And we all know Raheem Sterling's reputation, what it does. But one of the fun facts is that surely, as I said earlier, England were the better side. They had 21 goal attempts to 6 that Denmark had, but Denmark scored an amazing fucking free kick in the 30th minute. They took the lead. England was super fucking lucky with the equalizer goal. This thing happened. This was not a penalty, because if this is a penalty, you might as well give the fucking Ballon d'Or to Phil fucking Jones for the rest of his life, because Phil fucking Jones has not played. Look, this is exactly how he looks every single day. That's how his face is, apparently. So now, and then Harry Kane, who is a 200 million pound person, takes one of the tamest penalties. I mean, he said, I chose to go on that side, but what, you chose right in the middle of the fucking goal. Like, what the fuck was that?
Morata's penalty.
Yeah. It like even if the goalkeeper was like literally falling asleep, he'll just like fall down. It was still much worse than Morata as well. And then Schmeichel saves, but then the luck, man, lady luck falls, ball right like on his like feet, like it's like and he just taps it in.
Yeah, honestly, I think somehow I feel the stars have aligned for England to win this cup. It can't be like, I mean, everything is falling in place for England. Like every single thing that can go in their favor has gone in their favor. They've got the favorable group. They were on the favorable side of the draw. They are playing, like barring one match against Ukraine, all the matches are in Wembley. I mean, talk about lady luck, right? And why people are not making a hue and cry about the penalty last night is because you said it, right? England probably were the better team on the night, and if anyone was supposed to win, like before the penalty shootout, the fair result would have been England. But I mean, it was a shame that they won like this, like one own goal and one dubious penalty, right?
Dubious? Come on, and dubious is you just being very kind. I mean, come on, he dived.
He dived. He lit. And you know, post-match interview, if you heard that, the guy asked him like, "Do you think it was clear penalty?" And he said, "Yeah, I felt something, so I had to go down." I'm like, someone in his early days has taught him that if you feel even air around you in the penalty box, you go down, and he is following it to the T. Like, I mean, how do you stamp these things out of football? And I thought VAR would really come in and common sense would prevail. And referee was called to the screen to say that, hey, can you just see this? Are you sure you want to give this penalty? I was 99% sure he would overturn his decision, but he didn't. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? It was just unbelievable. And it's shameful that not only England won this way, but it's shameful that Denmark exited this way. Because
that is the main thing. Both teams they didn't deserve it.
Correct. Both teams deserved whatever the result, whether Denmark winning or England winning, both teams deserve to go out or stay in on the merits and not like a refereeing decision.
Yeah, so what is happening is, if you want to see a template, how somebody falls down. Now, this guy is like, what is happening is that literally when you're looking for something, right, I understand, I'm not going to shit on Sterling, why is he doing it? People do it, fine, I don't like it. Personally, I think it's fucking disgraceful. VAR is disgraceful, Sterling is disgraceful, but I get it, nothing personal. So literally, it's like theatrical, right? That's what Alejandro Moreno, if you've heard him, he was legend of diving. Okay, he in fact said on the show that, you know, this is the perfect template. If I have to teach in a school, this is how you dive. You're just like waiting. The moment the leg is coming, you're like, oh, and you're like, oh. I was like, so you know, the best way when I know when somebody's not diving, every single time, you see Lionel Messi. When he falls down, there is no expectation. He just falls down because he's actually never trying to fall down. So when he actually falls down, he actually falls. This is how you fall when you fall like Lionel Messi, because he doesn't care. He wants to keep running. Even like people are literally kicking him, he's still running. And if that way, Lionel Messi should be getting penalties all day long. If Lionel Messi, this Sterling soul comes to Lionel Messi, people will hate Lionel Messi after that, because like, why are you falling down every time? Because if one person I've seen, Ronaldo, again, we both love Ronaldo because of Manchester United, but Ronaldo will like fall. But obviously Sterling is another level. But Messi, I love this guy, always tries not to fall as much as possible. Literally, I've seen people kicking him.
You know what? If it was Spain and England in the final, it would have been like Oscar level performance between Sterling and Sergio Busquets. he's like Jack Nicholson, and this guy is his protege. Oh my God! Like both are great play acts. But anyways, that's not the case. But I mean, I think just one thing apart from the match, the atmosphere at Wembley was like just electric. Okay, I was just looking at the build-up and just pre-match, like the whole atmosphere in the stadium was amazing. They were singing "Sweet Caroline," and at the end of the match, the players also joined in the crowd. I mean, that part, it felt like a festival. It felt like a fiesta. It was like a World Cup final in Brazil, like that kind of atmosphere was there, and that was just amazing. And I'm just looking forward to the final. I feel sorry for the Italians that there'll be 60,000 drunk, Englishmen shouting and booing them. But yeah, it's going to be a great atmosphere.
Because see, what has happened in the last almost 16, 17 months, they've not had a crowd since that Liverpool game that they had in Champions League against Atletico, I believe. So, by the way, as Alexis Nunes, ESPN host, she was saying, I don't think it was 60. I'm pretty sure it was more than 70,000. They're doing the Indian stuff. They're like, people are just getting in, like, oh, I have ticket. And they're not able to control these people. So, like, you might think we're not giving the entire 90, but in the final, I'm pretty sure 90 will end up showing up some or the other way. Up to Indian side, trees pe bhi khade ho jayenge. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
there may be people
and with the damp, it's been raining, it's been damp, but people are like, as you said, Sweet Caroline coming home. They've been going on and on about, and they were literally singing after the match, that we are not going home. So which Alexis was saying that probably they're serious. They're like probably not going home. They're going to another pub and just never going home at all. Yeah. It's just crazy because England. See, one thing I agreed. I listened to just before the podcast. I was running. I was listening to Gary Neville. So Gary Neville was like completely like, oh, I love it. This is the best. This is the best. But I have a lot of respect for Gary Neville because I really like him when he speaks. And I was like, stop talking shit, because he's been talking a lot of England. So I was like irritated. But the moment the lady asked him, what do you think about the penalty? He straight away said, not in a million years. And then he said, listen, I'm very happy for it and I have nothing to say against anything. If flat answer is not in a million years, but he said, I am so happy because everything always goes against us. So I'll take it any fucking day. But he was very straightforward, not a penalty. That was just crude. So that happened. So let's talk about the final. Which is coming up, and that's the reason I've still not left Delhi, because I somehow felt that maybe my internet might just go bust in Nainital, and also I'll not be able to stay awake. By the way, this is the first match I stayed awake for the entire match, England match, and I watched the entire fucking match, and it kept going. I was like, I will never fucking sleep, and I woke up at 9:30. So normal Indian people might feel 9:30 is not late, but for a person who wakes up at 6 o'clock, 9:30 is very, very fucking late. So today I woke up again at normal time, and I ran, and I'm here. So it is going to be England versus Italy. Everybody wanted this. This is a big fucking final. It will be 70,000 plus people there, I'm pretty sure. Now, but only one team can win this thing. My opinion on this thing, that both teams are not into keeping ball possession. Okay. I have this terrible feeling that unless someone scores early, and this is very reasonable, terrible feeling, that this is going to be a fucking bore fest, a war of attrition, each team playing cautious fucking football, hoping to sneak in a goal on the break or through the opposition error, some kind of Unai Simon stuff that might happen. I personally feel Italy has to take initiative. I don't think England will. Italy has to press England. I believe Italy is the better side, even if it's marginally. I think Italy is, and they gotta go out there with more courage and stop football from coming home, because if England did not do that against Germany, when Germany was generally weaker than them, only on name basis, Germany is obviously much far superior in the history, but like while they were playing and say they had the same forward problem, they still sat back, say, okay, we will not try to win the match, we will make sure that you can't win it, and we'll somehow, because we have the good forward, because that's exactly what Southgate is going to do. I just can't say anything else. Lal, do you think because Spinazzola is now gone, and it's been, we could see in the last game, there was a lot of difference, and Emerson, I think he apparently just made one counter attack, and when he reached the forward line, he was like, what would happen now? Like, this is a very unknown territory. So now, do you think he will be able to fill the boots? I say it lightly, fill the boot isn't like, just should be able to do the basic bare minimum, and or it, because Italy's defense looks rock solid as like Putin's Russian Empire to me. It will be very difficult to breach, but England does have the team, plus they have the great swimming divers. Please tell me that what do you think, who will win? I think you already predicted Italy. If you have changed your mind or whatever, do that. And how will either team beat the opposition? The same thing you have to do, be the Mancini, be the Southgate, and just try to set up a winning team, a winning setup that eventually gets the thing home.
Yeah. I think it's easier to be Southgate. I'll start with Southgate. I think the team and the formation remains the same. I think instead of Saka, he might start with either Rashford or Grealish on the other, and Sterling will play on the other side. Why I say this is because, like, if Kane drops deeper and he draws either Chiellini or Bonucci like slightly towards him, then if you have runners like Rashford on one side and Sterling on the other, or Grealish on one side and Sterling on the other, it just creates that room, and England have a chance to score. Because no matter how rock solid Bonucci and Chiellini have been, it's also their weakness is their pace. They can't. They are I think 34 and 36 respectively, so they can't run. So England can attack with pace on the flanks, and I think the formation remains the same. 6 at the back. I say 6 at the back is because the two holding midfielders will exactly do that. Will make sure that they don't concede. So I think that would be Southgate's plan. Southgate will not tell his team to attack and get the ball, as you rightly said. I think they will play similar to how they played against Germany. I mean, I'm not saying in terms of the formation, but their approach to the game will be slightly cautious, and they'll try and play, with pace on the counter. Italians, on the other hand, if I was Mancini, I think again, team will more or less be the same, like how they started against Spain in the semi-finals. It's a big loss. Spinazzola is a big loss for them, because Emerson, I mean, it's hard, for him to fill Spinazzola's boots. But if he is defensively solid, I think that's at least half the job done, because he's going to get a lot of attacks coming on the flank. But I think Chiesa, Immobile, and Insigne, I think those three have to start and have to stretch England's defense. But I have changed my mind from last time. I think England will win. I think two things. One is a footballing reason. One is a non-footballing reason. Non-footballing reason is I just feel there are signs that all stars have aligned for England to win, and it's 55 years. Something's got to give. And I mean, although I don't want these pompous Englishmen to keep on ranting about this and be in your face, it's coming home. I don't want that. But unfortunately, I think the stars are aligned and they will win. Coming to the footballing reason, I think they have been the fittest team in the tournament. Like yesterday, Denmark, after 60 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I've heard a lot.
Falling. Yeah. They were falling off. Suddenly they were winded. They were really tired, leggy. And Southgate didn't make any substitutions till 96 minutes. I think there was 6 minutes of added time. There was one sub, and then they were still going at it. So I think the English team is fitter than the Italian team. The second reason is the bench is stronger than the Italian team. So if it's going to be a bore fest and it'll be a 0-0 or a 1-1, and you need energy at the end, England can bring on quality on the pitch. They can bring Sancho, Rashford, Grealish, you name it, and they will bring all those guys on the pitch. Somehow I feel it'll be similar to Denmark. Once Italy make 2 or 3 substitutions, then the quality goes down. It's no longer the same. When you reach your 4th, 5th, 6th sub, it's just not the same team. It weakens your team. So somehow I think the battle of tactics, I think it'll be almost 50-50. But because England are a fitter team, and because England have better quality, on their bench, I think I somehow think now that England might just nick it.
All right, fair enough. So what about Copa America? Are we rooting for Argentina?
Yeah, I mean, just for Messi. I don't have traditionally I'm not I don't have any soft corner or love for Argentina, but just for the sake of Messi, I think Ronaldo won the Euros, and it's just that in order to continue this Messi versus Ronaldo debate, Messi needs that Copa America title so that it's back in the balance again. So only for Messi, I think, and Brazil, doesn't need it. I think you were discussing it off air.
They definitely don't.
I mean, they don't.
They won it last time also.
Yeah, if they win it, it'll just be one more thing in the cabinet. I mean, there's no story behind it. So yeah, just for Messi, I think they should win it. I mean, I'll back Argentina.
I do, unlike you, I do have a soft corner. Not to say soft corner. In fact, I've followed Argentina since forever, since even before I started watching football properly. At that time, it was it had nothing to do with Lionel Messi. Actually, it was a long time. I think it was early 2000. So it was Gabriel Batistuta who was their main striker, and it happened even before. Why I followed Argentina, I've spoken on other podcasts that actually I started following when I was 10 years old. I started following tennis, and that time there was this lady called Gabriela Sabatini. And she was a great tennis player from Argentina, and she was very hot. Everybody liked her. She was always final or maximum final, never really win anything. I think she did win US Open once, and so from there, I think it's just Argentina. Then I started soft football. I was like, oh, I like this striped T-shirt, the light blue color, vertical stripes. So then it was Gabriel Batistuta. I remember. Then Lionel Messi happened. Yeah, Lionel Messi happened. So it was just like, this is like, as a kid, this is how you end up following people, right? You see the big moves and you just follow people. But at that time, I was not even. It was just that she was a very attractive player that people follow. It was Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, this girl. I used to follow Michael Stick. He was a German player who nobody knows anymore. He won Wimbledon also once, and also Andre Agassi. But these are my favorite players: Gabriel Batistuta and Michael Stick. People have forgotten, but Gabriel Batistuta is still popular because she sometimes comes in the shows or all. So let's hope. But again, I am honestly, because so much heartache I've had over the years, I don't want to say anything about this. But I really like the fact that what you said about Italy, and to be very frank, I don't want to take credit away from England, but the fact is that if I call you, like whenever you're traveling, even if I give you the best facilities, if I call you here to Delhi, you can stay at my place, you can stay in a hotel, or I have to travel to you, and somebody's home. Whenever you're home, you're naturally going to be fitter because you're just home. You don't have to travel. You don't have to do certain things. You're not uncomfortable. You're not in some alien space. What is happening? They're always been home. So they just generally feel fresher because I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just at my place. Even if I have to travel, it's still England. It's like, I know what is happening. I can just manage myself much better. Yeah. But when you're somewhere else, you're like, it's just like you're not able to. Yeah.
They've just traveled for one match. So they've been.
And like, perfect match, right?
Perfect match. Yeah. Ukraine, and it was like nice one short trip and then back. And Italians have traveled and played at, I think, 3 or 4 venues by now. So, yeah, I mean, that's one. And I think the other thing is somehow, I don't know the reason for fitness, because all these English players play for the top 3-4 clubs and they've played 50-60 matches this season. So it's not that they are like, they've played less matches and hence they're fitter. Credit due where it's due. I think they've done a good job in terms of training and fitness and conditioning, and that's what I think paying off.
No, yeah, that's true. I was just saying like that one point is that, and the other is conditioning, because I think English Premier League is so rich. What happens Manchester City, what happens to United and Tottenham and everywhere, they make sure that these guys are fresh because they know they have to play so many matches for such a long time. So whenever they are, I think right now, unlike before, unlike the 90s, even 2010s, that when you're on a break, when you're not playing, there's certain things that you still need to maintain, because I think they're just keeping the body in top shape. And also, by the way, when you're winning and in the final, everybody just talks about your fitness. If you had lost to Germany, we were like, fuck you, fitness. We don't give a shit. So that would have happened. So I think I really enjoyed today's podcast. I was not sure how many things we'll talk about, but still went on for like more than 25 minutes. So we'll be back on Monday. Thanks, Paul. And has it ever been home? It hasn't, but it's diving home already. So we'll be back on Monday. We'll be talking about the finals result and if England has won or Italians have won or finally Argentina has beaten Brazil. Fun fact, before I leave, I thought Argentina would have won less Copas, but Argentina has won 14 against Brazil's 9. So that was very surprising. But in the recent years, they have not won jack shit since forever, since 1993 or something like that. All right, on that note, take care. Thanks for your time. Like and subscribe. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.